let's take a look at this. We've got a couple of graphs. We have an f of x and a g of x. And they want us to do some stuff. It says that the two functions have graphs shown above. Fill out the table for the defined function h of x, and it tells you what h of x is every time. And exercises 1 through 8, and complete the graph, because later on you're going to have to go back and fill in the picture for 3 through 8 on the axis. Today, I'm only concerned about 1 and 2. I threw way too much at first hour, and hopefully they will go back and watch this video, and they probably hate me. So we're going to take this in chunks. We're just going to do 1 and 2 so you guys don't hate me, okay? Let's kind of look at this. They're saying that h of x for this particular problem, it just is f of x. So we're just focused on f of x. We're not doing anything funky or crazy. And it says, here's our input, here's our x values, and we just need an output. Forget the rest of the chart, and let's just focus on input, output. By output, we're usually talking about what? Usually the y value. So this is pretty simple. If you put in a -3, what do you get? Now, f of x is at the one on the left or the right? Left. So if you put in a -3, 1, 2, 3, what do you get? -1. If you put in a -2, what do you get? If you put in a -1, what do you get? Are you sure it's not -1? It's definitely 1, because 1 has a closed-in circle, so that's where the value is, right at 1, or -1. 0 is 0. +1 is, it's hiding, it's up there at 1. The value for 2 is, and the value for 3 is 1. Any questions so far? Okay, the next column, let me zoom in so everybody can see it. It even says left-hand limit. The limit as we approach the function for x as it approaches a from the left, not toward the left, but from the left. So let me back out of this. The letter a is whatever is over here because it says x equals a. So we're approaching -3 from the left. As I'm approaching from the left, what value are we approaching? -1. We're approaching -2 now. As I approach -2 from the left, what am I approaching? 0. Now I'm approaching -1. As I approach from the left, I'm approaching 1. 0. As I approach from the left, I'm approaching 0. As I approach 1 from the left, I'm approaching, notice those answers are different. Right at 1, the answer is 1. As we approach 1 from the left, it's -1. Does everybody see that? So don't get going down here and start copying down numbers and think you're fine, because you're not. It's going to get real crazy tomorrow, trust me. So 2, as I approach 2 from the left, what's the answer? And as I approach 3 from the left, we're approaching 1. Next one, the right-handed limit. So from the right, we're approaching -3 from the right. As I approach -3 from the right, I'm approaching -1. As I'm approaching -2 from the right, 0. As I'm approaching -1 from the right, what's happening? We're going down to -1. Good job. As I approach 0 from the right, as I approach 1 from the right, as I approach 2 from the right, as I approach 3 from the right. The next question says, what's the limit as we approach from both sides? Now you could look at the graph, but could you also just look at this chart? If we're approaching -1 from the left and the right, then we just put a -1 here? How about the next one? From both sides, they're approaching 0. What about the next one? Doesn't exist. They're approaching 2 different values. So we say D and E. You guys finish that column? So that basically if the numbers match, then that's the limit from both sides. If the numbers don't match, the limit does not exist at that point. Questions so far? Last column. Is the function, is it continuous at x for those values? Is it continuous at -3? By looking at the chart, not the picture. It's kind of all the same, so yeah. Is it continuous at -2? Is it continuous at -1? No, that's why there's a doesn't exist. There's a jump. So we say no. Finish that column. What about at 1? Is it continuous at 1? There's point discontinuity. So it is discontinuous at 1, at -1. So can you always just look at these numbers and know? Maybe if all of these matched, but we saw that the value was 1, but the limit was -1. So we saw that they didn't all match, so it's no. Everybody catch that? Today, when you finish your quiz, and if you're all done with that assignment that we're about to grade, you're going to finish number 2. We'll come in tomorrow and we'll talk about the rest. Okay? Thank you.